What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through a massive 12-game slate in the association. The sprint to the finish line of the All-Star break is upon us as we've had a very condensed schedule in the NBA. Lots of teams playing back-to-backs. So it's that injury time season. And with me through it is Mike Gallagher. Mike, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing good. Bet a little NFL yesterday. Actually, won a little bit. Didn't have as great of a day as you. Congrats to you yesterday for some sweet showdown cash. That's awesome. But yeah,
Thank you.
excited and yeah, just a loaded slate today. So let's go. Let's get to it.
Yep, let's get to it. Let's start with the Clippers and Cleveland on the Clippers side of the injury report. Just if it's a Zubats, the only player listed that's of significance here, listed out with the right calf strain, Musa Diabaté out as well. But Clippers fairly healthy, been rolling through this East Coast road trip, smacked the Celtics on the second night of a back-to-back for the Clips. We're gonna have to talk a lot about the Clippers and championship odds and whatnot, maybe on this week's podcast. But from an injury perspective, what are your notes here?
Yeah, Paul George. He's probably gonna have a minutes limit on him. He played somewhat shockingly in a back-to-back set in Boston. You see the 22 on the screen. There was garbage time, but he was trending light. He was not going to hit 30 minutes. So maybe he gets a little bit more. I think we got him at 29 right now. But yeah, I think they're going to kind of manage him. Ty said after the game they were not expecting him to play, and Paul George wanted to tough it out because of the opponent. So yeah, but could be some light minutes there. Bigger Cavs team, so we'll see how big they go. We've got a pretty good amount of center minutes compared to what we're used to. We know teams like to play big against the Cavs, so could be more of a it looks like we got the Grizz injury report here. Curious to see what they had, but oh my god. But yeah, so keep an eye on Paul George, but expecting to have a limit today.
All right, let's move to the Cleveland side of things, where Evan Mobley listed questionable, listed with the left knee surgery recovery. Donovan Mitchell probable here. They're without Darius Garland still. It sounds like Evan Mobley, if he does play, will be on a pretty strict minutes limit. What are your expectations here for the Cavs?
Yeah, so we're going to get Mobley back. It's a matter if he starts or not. He's going to have a low 20s minutes limit. So we have him at 22. They might bring him off the bench. We know they don't really like the Damian Jones minutes. They've been, kind of pulling him here and there. He did get the non-Allens at a really big win against Milwaukee over the weekend. So he would be starting for Dean Wade. So I expect Isaac Okoro to continue to start. Certainly a big minutes and big role for Donovan Mitchell. Max Strus minutes have been pretty solid. And this will affect Caris LeVert just a little bit. With some more minutes being injected in as well. And we'll see how Jared Allen's role continues to grow here. If it gets cut down, his front court touches really stepped up since Mobley's been out. And Mobley's, I believe he was out since December 6th. So kind of beat the timeline a little bit. He's, kind of on the shorter end. So good for him to be out there. And hopefully he can stay healthy the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think they'll bring him off the bench. They've had so much success with sort of these like 4-out type lineups and away from double big stuff that I'm interested to see how they continue to adapt. But I think it makes the most sense in the world, especially against this opponent, right? Like bigger athletic wings that you have to deal with, to have Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro still out there. Bring Evan Mobley off the bench to replace Jared Allen. You can overlap them a little bit in second unit stuff just to get their feet wet, but not really disrupt the way this team has been playing. And I think when you have a team that's been playing so well in the absence of one of their star players, it's a little bit on the star player to kind of find his way and his rhythm to adapting to how the team's been playing. So I think it makes the most sense for them to bring Mobley off the bench, as you indicated, is a potential. Yeah. Let's move to
also, number one offense in 2024 versus the number one defense. Cavs just playing such good defense right now, and Clippers are on fire.
Yep. Let's move to the Knicks and Charlotte. The Knicks got good news around Julius Randle's dislocated shoulder, as the reports are now that it will be more like a matter of weeks as opposed to a matter of months. The range on this injury is substantial, so it could have been as little as 2 to 3 weeks and as much as the rest of the season. It sounds like it's going to be closer to the weeks side of that, based on reporting from Woj and Shams. So he's out tonight. Evan Fournier is also not with the team due to personal reasons. What do you expect the Knicks to look like in the absence of Julius Randle?
Yeah, so yeah, you laid a timeline out. It is a dislocation, not a separation, so that's good news. Hoping to avoid season-ending surgery. So this is going to be tough. I mean, Randall's played really, really well, excluding the kind of cold start. He's been finishing great. His passing's been really strong. His defense has been even better. But quite obviously, I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't Josh Hart starting, more or less moving OG Anunoby to more of a 4 positionally on offense. He'll be more of a 1 on defense, guarding likely LaMelo. So yeah, that's I'm pretty confident there. So you're moving Hart into the starting lineup. That takes a lot of pressure off of Dante DiVincenzo, Quentin Grimes. Those guys should have way safer minutes here. Um, and we've only seen 11 minutes of Juice McBride overlapping with Jalen Brunson, so maybe they go that way full minutes because we know Tibbs likes to run it pretty tight, and they also did run in the past Jericho Sims as a 4, so that could be on the table. So we've kind of got a little bit of guards pushing up minutes. Mega Hart, we got 36 for him. We've seen him start and play close to 40 sometimes, so I feel pretty good about Hart playing a ton. And then Jalen Brunson's role should just be monstrous in a really, really good matchup against Cody Martin, who I think is going to have trouble defending him. But yeah, it could be one of the tightest rotations in the NBA against one of the worst defenses. So it should be some fantasy goodness, and I'm sure you and Gary will be talking about later.
Yeah, and I think you can, with the Knicks, we've always kind of talked about like who does Tibbs trust, because we know the rotation is generally going to be tight. We know he trusts OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hartenstein, Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes. He's developing trust on Precious Achiuwa. So that would be 7. Deuce McBride is 8. And then the question is 9. Is 9 Jericho Sims? I think probably yes, based on how we've seen Tibbs look at things in the past. So I think Precious Achiuwa might slide a little bit more to a 4 in terms of offensively and defensively, and Jericho Sims kind of act as the backup 5. It will be interesting when Fournier is in the mix as well, because he is more of a wing option that provides some shooting and different things that might be necessary. But I think I'm with you that they slide a little bit bigger in the second unit right now.
Yeah, and should also note that Fournier is not out for personal reasons, so probably done. They're probably going to try to get him off the book somehow for the deadline.
Charlotte side of things, LaMelo Ball questionable due to right ankle soreness. Gordon Hayward and Mark Williams are out here. Frank Ntilikina also questionable due to left hip discomfort. He was another late scratch on a weekend filled with late scratches. What are your notes here on the Hornets?
Yeah, that was a huge theme over the weekend with late scratches, headlined by Embiid, Cade Cunningham yesterday. I'm sure no one really cares about Frank Ntilikina, but it's interesting that it could tighten up the rotation a little bit. Did not get a lot of minutes on Nick Smith. Really, the starters, even without LaMelo, had pretty strong minutes. PJ Washington, absolute ham with 43 off the bench. Just a complete, they weren't even guarding him. Will Hardy really vented about that. And then Nick Richards had a huge game as well. So we should get LaMelo back, listed with the ankle. This is something that they've been managing with back-to-backs. So expect him to be out there. The minutes have been kind of not great. There were comments from Steve Clifford, I think on Friday, that he still has some, or actually maybe Wednesday, on some conditioning issues that's keeping LaMelo down. So we only have him at like 32.5 with a 9-point spread. So maybe he comes around here, but LaMelo hasn't really shown a ceiling. And again, he's going to probably get OG on him a bunch. So the matchup's pretty bad, got conditioning concerns. So not a great LaMelo spot for me, but he does actually go off in really tough matchups sometimes. And should mention Brandon Miller too, actually, really quick. He's run into some really bad foul trouble lately, but as you see on the screen, he does have minute ceiling when he can avoid fouls. Yeah,
and LaMelo, I mean, it's all shooting for him. So in some regards, the matchup doesn't matter as much because he's not getting to the rim very much anyway. It does matter in terms of limiting free throw upside and different things like that, but he can still get hot from 3. All right, let's move to New Orleans and Boston. On the New Orleans side of things, pretty straightforward injury report. They continue to list Cody Zeller available with face mask, which remains one of the weirdest listings that we have in this league. But nobody else listed. We did see sort of what I alluded to on Friday when we were talking about Pelicans, which was Trey Murphy played the first game, started the first game in the absence of Zion. Then DNP, the second night of back-to-back, was not listed on the injury report. Very frustrating that he's not listed on the injury report. But Jordan Hawkins kind of played ahead of him. So this is the game I was alluding to before, that we saw this like lineup rotation blip 3 games ago where they had everybody and Trey Murphy was pacing for fewer minutes than Jordan Hawkins and then got there and passed him in garbage time. This is the game now that I'm monitoring to see if Jordan Hawkins has actually passed Trey Murphy in the pecking order or not. But that's my only big note here. I don't know if he has or if he hasn't. I just know that the last 2 games, because Zion out and then the back-to-back, I know that wasn't a good indicator of where these two stand. But 3 games ago, we did see a little bit of a leapfrog. I'm interested to see if it carries over tonight.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed that the Pelicans beats didn't ask about this when I listened to Willie Green's presser. That he just gets so many softball questions, man. It's quite annoying. And you listen to the pre games, and the Pelicans, they tweet out a video or they Periscope or whatever, and it's like this sixth question about like the biggest question: is Zion playing with a Q tag? Yada yada. So, very annoying. If you can't tell, I'm upset with that. But yeah, the Trey stuff is weird. He laid all that out. I don't have much else to add. Should have mentioned Zion, pretty normal. Got a foot scan, so I thought he was going to miss both these back to backs, given the history of his injuries and how it usually takes forever. So returning after one missed game when he needed a scan on his foot is very encouraging there. And then the other note, Valanciunas, I think this is a thing now. There's commentary which I mentioned middle of last week that they're going to quote unquote evaluate the first unit with JV starting, and we've seen Larry Nance start the second half. Those lineups have actually gotten a lot worse, mainly because this time they got killed, and that their kind of first-ish unit in the third quarter. So they were running hot. They were like plus 22 net rating, and now they're like back to even because this game put a big dent in it. But I'm expecting that to continue. I think they're going to continue to run out Larry Nance to start second halves.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if he started overall. I mean, this matchup is just a very tough one for Joe Val to survive in against the Boston Wings and trying to play drop coverage against them. Boston side of things, Al Horford questionable, Luke Cornett doubtful, Kristaps Porzingis questionable. So a lot of front court injury-related tags for Boston. What are your notes here?
Yeah, just this is kind of going to be, how healthy is Kristaps? If he's healthy enough to go, they'll probably sit Horford today, or vice versa. So I expect one of those guys to start to be out there, and the other one play tomorrow. So yeah, then they'll start there. So kind of straightforward. Rest are, again, they just got absolutely handled over the weekend. But yeah, not too much else to add.
All right, and then let's move to Phoenix and Miami. Phoenix, Bradley Beal listed available with the nasal fracture. Yusuf Nurkic, questionable. He was ruled out for last game. What are your expectations in terms of the availability here? It's been a pretty condensed schedule for Phoenix of late as well.
Yeah, get used to you talk about the Cody Zeller available tag. Get used to it on Bradley Beal. He'll be, sporting that mask for a little bit. I should try to get a picture. That mask is serious, man. After getting popped a couple of games ago, so he'll play through it. Didn't play well. Those minutes didn't go well for them either. And then Devin Booker again. The Suns team just puts up 40 balls every night now. Was it 6 straight? 4 for Booker, 2 for Kevin Durant. Yeah, everything else is straightforward with the perimeter guys. Nurk did have a pretty big wrap on his thumb. He did do some pregame work and was actually shooting with the brace on his thumb. Even had it on the sidelines. So they're saying he has a chance to play. Gets the Q tag. Pretty decent chance he misses because that was a pretty big brace on his thumb. So this is certainly not a fake injury. I could definitely see him missing. Would likely start Eubanks in the spot, and that would be very good for Bam.
Yeah, it should note with Nurk the injury is on his left thumb, so not his his primary shooting hand. But big guys like your thumbs are really important. You're getting smacked down on a lot. You're having to catch the ball in traffic. You're having to finish with either hand. Nurk's biggest weakness over the years has been considered his finishing ability, and then also his ability to not turn the ball over kind of in the paint. So I'm interested to see if they take a more conservative approach just generally, because this would impact the two things he's already kind of are his weaknesses, I guess. So it's one that I'm monitoring, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if he does try to play through this injury, if you could see something like his turnover rate spike or shooting issues, even though it's not his primary shooting hand, just because as a big man, you need to finish both your left and right hands near the basket. Okay. Let's move to the Miami side of things. Their injury report is really clean here. They're just without some of the G League or fringe rotation guys. So we've got a fully healthy Heat team. It hasn't made much of a difference of late as they have lost, I think it's 6 in a row now. What are your notes on the Heat tonight?
Yeah, they can't score, man. They're having major offensive issues, one of the worst offenses in the NBA during the stretch. And yeah, as you mentioned, they're healthy. Rozier was going to be looking at around 33 minutes in the starting lineup, expecting to kind of be in that neighborhood, was bringing the ball up. But actually a pretty heavy amount of Tyler Hero second side scoring stuff that was a big part there. And Jimmy's been, he had a pretty big game on Saturday, but it's been like a little underwhelming. Minutes have been pretty strong. And then, as we've been talking about, Bam, the bottom kind of fell out on his minutes. Don't really know why. It's usually probably just a function of having more bodies after playing him like upper 30s for like a month straight. But so I'm still expecting Juan Wick to come off the bench, returned over the weekend. So we'll see how he probably is going to close this game, and that could be at the expense of Haywood Highsmith, but they need the defense for Durant. So pretty tricky spot for Erik Spoelstra, how he's going to kind of handle this again, because they got to do something about this offense, man. This offense can't be this bad. They've been really struggling. So curious to see how. And Duncan Robinson's been playing pretty well, but he's obviously a guy they don't like to play with Hero. So a whole lot of problems for Spo here, but we know nobody's better at solving problems than him.
My nerdy, random, not super useful stat of the day. While I was looking at Miami Heat baselines, do you know what player from the Miami Heat has played the most possessions for Miami since the beginning of December?
It's not Bam?
It's not Bam.
Oh, wow.
Duncan Robinson.
Duncan. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's I was crazy. I was like shocked. That's why it stood out to me. He's a few possessions ahead of Bam in terms of most possessions played since December 1st. And obviously his role is in severe jeopardy with the acquisition of Terry Rozier and the health of Tyler Hero kind of returning. But he had been kind of an integral part when they were playing well. And so it's interesting to see as they get healthier. And this is something that's been popular in Miami media, sports media, is this team, when Tyler Hero is available, they seem to play poorly, just generally. When Tyler Hero is gone, they seem to play really well. So kind of an unusual situation. Utah and Brooklyn.
I should actually mention one more thing with Jay Rich got booted from the rotation, and the books lined him. We mentioned in our Discord that get whatever Jay Rich stuff you can get, so we don't think he's going to play. And my man doesn't get garbage time, so sadly the Jay Rich bets didn't. They went Jay Rich went Jay Poor for those
as they have all season long, including the best ball shares. Let's go to the Utah Brooklyn game. Utah just without their G Leaguers tonight. What are your notes on the Jazz?
Yeah, nothing really. I don't think I have much to say. Their offense has been pretty good. Their defense has been pretty bad. Obviously, really bad on-ball defense from them. But yeah, they actually got some pretty serious minutes. We call Will Hardy kind of the anti-Tibbs for minutes, but these guys got kind of up there. Again, in a really good game environment last time. Matchup so a little bit tougher. Nets, kind of bad defensively, but not as bad as the Hornets. But pretty straightforward here.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of basketball, I saw a number of beats that cover those two teams tweeting about how it was the worst defensive half of basketball they've ever seen in their years covering the league. So anything will be a step up from what the Hornets offered last time out. Brooklyn side, no Dorian Finney-Smith, no Daron Sharp. The return of Ben Simmons, though, listed available with that left lower back nerve impingement. What are your expectations for how the team tries to mix in Ben Simmons?
Yeah, we basically have him just with we're expecting a minutes limit for sure, given his injury history, especially with the back. He's had some major back issues in his career. So we got him just playing the non-Claxton minutes as a, kind of a center on defense and substitution pattern wise. We'll take some handling away from some of the guards, though. We know he handles a little bit. Expecting a pretty small role, though, just because he's been out for so long with this history. And then no Dorian. So they kind of do a little carousel here with, Cam Johnson missed the last game for personal, and now Dorian's out with his injury, so kind of flipping him. That's obviously fantastic news for Cam Johnson, who went off in the last game. So the minutes should be pretty solid. Again, I don't think Ben's going to influence him too much. Probably get, the minutes Ben's on the floor, probably won't see a lot of Cam Thomas anyways. But so starting, and then Spencer Dinwiddie's minutes come down a little bit. We've seen him be a little bit vulnerable when Ben or Cam or somebody else is in there. So keep an eye on Spencer's role possibly shrinking a little bit.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering if, in the absence of Dorian Finney-Smith, and Daron Sharp, they treat Ben Simmons just as a 4-5 instead of a guard at all, and just sort of use him almost as a backup center in this spot against it's a little bit challenging to do because Utah plays bigger in the second unit, but I'm wondering if that's kind of the short-term solution for tonight, to make sure that because they've liked what they've gotten from their guards this year, from Dennis Smith Jr., from Lonnie Walker. Obviously Cam Thomas has been really, really up and down, but really good game last time. So I'm interested to see if Ben Simmons returns more as a big than a guard tonight. We'll see for tonight and going forward. Lakers and Houston. Lakers side of things, 2 questionable tags on Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They're without Cam Reddish and Gabe Vincent. this is the front end of a back-to-back for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
They've also been hinting at looking to try to find some spots to take some time off. They're coming off of a double overtime game. So there is a lot of, caution signs here on LeBron James and Anthony Davis tonight. Road matchup in Houston, though, kind of a big one in terms of playing potential tiebreakers down the road. I know the Lakers don't want to be thinking that they're in that group, but that is where they are currently, seated 9th, and the Houston Rockets seated 11th. So what are your thoughts on how the Lakers choose to approach this back-to-back set? They play at Atlanta tomorrow. And then also, do you think we see a game where they sit both and a game where they play both? Do they think they split them? Like, what's your leans here on the Lakers?
Yeah, no national TV on either one. Feels like, I can't believe Anthony Davis returned, man. Like, if you were watching this game, he looked like he was like 85 years old walking into the locker room, and then goes back out there and makes a big impact. So, he's not listed with that either. He's listed with the injury they always list him with, and then we had hip spasms over the weekend. So, I don't know, man. Like, I was even saying in our Slack when we were doing minutes, like, do we just ding him for like in-game injury risk? It feels like it's kind of back on, but he just consistently finds minutes and has run pretty good on health. So, but yeah, I don't really have too much to say. I think, as you mentioned, they mentioned in the middle of last week, they're going to try to find games to sit LeBron. So certainly expecting some summer rest here, either today or tomorrow. I just don't really have much insight onto which one it is. And then should also highlight D'Angelo Russell. Man, he is just running good. The minutes have been really, really strong. Reeves' minutes have been pretty good as well. And then lastly, Jared Vanderbilt, really hot minutes, kind of just ice Taurean Prince. Does he flip that starting lineup? There was, when then Darvin Ham fired buzz started coming around, it's because they wanted to maybe lean into Vando. Does Vando just take Prince's minutes? I kind of don't think so. But, we have probably our lowest minutes projection on a healthy Taurean Prince that we've had in months, just because we think Vando's going to kind of cut into him.
Yeah, and just looking ahead on the Lakers schedule, they also play Thursday at Boston, TNT game. So I think just like if I was running this team, I don't get these opportunities, but if they were both able to play LeBron and AD tonight, I would have them both play tonight and rest them both tomorrow in Atlanta and get 2 days off before the national TV game in Boston. This game, like conference games, matter so much more than non-conference games for all the tiebreaker stuff, for all the seeding stuff. So that would be my approach to things here. I wouldn't like, I don't know if they'll have that opportunity. These guys are both legitimately dinged up and coming off of playing massive minutes. So they might not legitimately both be healthy, but that's what I would be trying to do if I was in the Lakers spot, because I think tonight's game is so much more important than tomorrow's game for them, for their future playoff hopes. Okay. Houston side of things, Tari Eason still listed out. For now, that's the only other thing on the injury report. We are skeptical because Jabari Smith Jr. keeps getting added later and later in the day to injury reports. What are your inclinations on the Rockets tonight?
Yeah, we'll give him credit, I guess, for being okay. A couple days off, but yeah, as you mentioned, Jabari Smith's been added with an ankle injury that he suffered a couple weekends ago. So yeah, we have a minutes limit on him. We've seen him run pretty hot. He's even touched close to 40 minutes in some games, but we have him, I think, at 32. Again, this is a bad ankle injury, and I was surprised that he even looked like he was gonna play initially, but then all these downgrades have been obviously bad news. Again, this is an ankle he's hurt twice this year, so expecting him to start could change. That would obviously bump Uncle Jeff back to the bench, and then the big question besides that is how could they find Cam Whitmore minutes? He's been playing really well. Do they cut Aaron Holiday out and play a little bit bigger and then move Amen to more of a straight one? But I think that there's a chance that Cam Whitmore could kind of find 20-ish minutes off the bench somehow. Do they cut down Jayshawn Tate? How does Jeff Green get mostly just non-Şengün minutes? Pretty interesting. And then obviously the matchup for Şengün is heavily weighted to Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis is in, not great. If he's out, could be really strong.
Yeah, the two guys that I would think would be most vulnerable, honestly, would be Jeff Green and Amen Thompson. I know that sounds really weird, but if you're going to play Cam Whitmore and you're going to emphasize him in the second unit as like a scorer, you kind of need some other defensive players kind of around him. And I think they trust Aaron Holiday and Jayshawn Tate defensively so much more than everybody else. So those are the guys that I'd be looking at if they're trying to create more room for Cam Whitmore, but it's tricky because they also might want to emphasize the development of Amen Thompson. I mean, he was a top 5 pick. That's a lot invested in him, but it's just a little bit tricky to play Thompson and Whitmore together while also trying to work your way back into the, play in positioning. It's kind of a tough situation to balance for Houston right now with where their priorities are.
Yeah, should mention they almost pulled a comeback off too. I didn't have the guts to fire Rockets money line just because the Nets just, man, they cannot close games out, man. Barely getting this win, and should mention they also started Aaron Holiday because they started so poorly in the first half. Yeah, over Jeff Green.
Let's move to Minnesota and Oklahoma City, the battle for the top of the Western Conference tonight. Mm-hmm. Minnesota side, Mike Conley questionable left hamstring soreness, so he's been on the injury report with illness, with the hamstring stuff of late. It's been kind of a calamity of injuries for him. He's the only notable piece on the injury report here. What are your expectations on his availability tonight?
Yeah, I mentioned this last week that he got initially listed with, quote, rest, and they didn't mention the hamstring, but the Timberwolves broadcast, which I think is one of the better broadcasts, had mentioned that he is dealing with a hamstring injury. He's had a history here, so decent chance he misses. This isn't a back-to-back game, so maybe he's out there. Don't have a great read, but wouldn't be surprised if his minutes get held in check. That said, his minutes were kind of coming up. Again, they need the kind of adult in the room here. Bad loss over the weekend.
Another one.
Another one. They're back, man. The Wolves are back to their old ways here. But, obviously, if he's out, Nickeil Alexander-Walker will continue to start. Rudy Gobert's been playing really, really strong minutes, and we'll see how many minutes they get out of Jaden McDaniels, who will certainly be picking up the SGA. And there was actually a Windhorst story on Cat that I had to read. I'm curious to see what that says because, his minutes have not been very good. It's just pretty crazy for a guy to score 62 and to be perceived the way he is. It's, remarkable and unusual. So I'm curious to see. They could use this one. They have played pretty well against tough teams. So this is a tall task, but they are tall.
I'm really interested to see if we get Conley back. Obviously, our podcast dove in on the Wolves last week and Karl-Anthony Towns and the absence of Mike Conley and how impactful it was. And then they went out over the weekend and lost the Spurs with a disastrous fourth quarter where they desperately, again, needed an adult in the room. So very important Q tag for Mike Conley today. The Thunder, talking about bad losses, they got waxed by Detroit yesterday without Cade Cunningham. It is the back end of a back-to-back for Oklahoma City here. They had not filed as of the 1:30 injury report. I don't expect to see anything substantial on here. Normally with OKC, I caution that they generally treat back-to-backs with expanding the rotation, all those things. Mm-hmm. It's starting to get pretty important from a seeding perspective in the Western Conference. You've now got the Clippers, Wolves, and Thunder all at 14 losses, the Nuggets at 15, and beyond them, there's a little bit of a gap right now. But in terms of playoff seeding, it's a big deal whether you can have one of those top 2 seeds and get home court for at least the first 2 rounds compared to maybe just 1 round. So I think you see OKC play it pretty straight up here, but what are your inclinations on what we might see from the injury report from them?
Yeah, I'd imagine we get that news in a couple minutes. So maybe we could come back to it and then go from there. So I think it should be coming in 2 minutes.
Okay, let's move to Sacramento and Memphis then. On the Sacramento side, just Sasha Vezenkov, questionable with a right ankle sprain. What are your notes on the Kings?
A little odd that he's went through shoot around. They gave us 7 to 14 days to be reevaluated. Apparently, he's going to beat that because that was on Wednesday, so under a week there. So weird. They gave him a Q tag last game, so it sounds like he's got a chance to play. I still have my doubts overall, but we haven't projected in just because it seems he's got a Q tag shoot around. There we go. And then the other headline is, man, Harry B. He is just running so hot on minutes. And, just in general, that first unit's playing a ton. It's really cut down Malik Monk a little bit. Trey Lyles has even had some tough times finding minutes. And got to shout out Keegan Murray, man. Really good defensive game, guarded Luka and held Luka in check. Game after Luka goes for 70 ball, he only gets 28. Keegan played excellent basketball. Really nice win from them. But pretty much injury-wise, pretty straightforward here.
They're playing the Grizzlies, whose injury report is not as straightforward. They've listed Zaire Williams doubtful, John Conchar doubtful, Vince Williams questionable, Luke Kennard out, along with a number of players that have been out of late. So who is left for Memphis tonight?
The bear, the mascot, is he going to play? It's just bad, man. I haven't even because we got this just as we were popping on, but the notable thing yesterday was Scottie Pippen leapfrog Jake Gilliard. He might start. I mean, if they don't have Vince, man, this is just going to be just whoever can play a ton. I have to even pull it all up. It's like too much to even like
It's
talk
11.
through.
It's 11. It's 11 players listed on the injury report right now,
Insane.
and nobody's probable. So they could be without 11. The names that they still have left that are not listed on the injury report include Jaren Jackson. If you can go back to that box score, I can roll through it.
Yeah. Okay.
Jaren Jackson Jr., Santi Aldama, David Roddy, Xavier Tillman, Gigi Jackson. Those are 5 front court players that they have available. And then Jacob Gilliard, Scottie Pippen Jr. I'm out of guys.
Mega Scotty.
Yep. That's 7 guys. That's 5 front court players and 2 guards that they have that are not listed on the injury report. Vince Williams, if he is able to play with the questionable tag, would be the only wing that they'd have really on the roster. You could consider David Roddy a wing, I suppose. But this could be really, really tight. And against a Sacramento team that defensively has really struggled this year, that's going to lead to some fantasy appeal for sure. But this is going to be, a big test because the lack of offensive talent that the Grizzlies have at their disposal compared to the ineptitude of the Kings defense this year. I'm not sure who wins out on this one, but they might be really, really shorthanded. We're talking like 7-8 guys available, unless there's other players that they signed to hardships or anything like that I'm missing. I'm only counting 7 for sure players available tonight.
Yeah, they might have to do something.
You have to have 8 active to play. So there's also a thing where
active. Yeah.
Right. There's also a thing here where if you see Vince Williams active but not starting, there's some stuff that's up, and they might only be playing 7. But it's going to be potentially really thin here for Memphis.
Yeah, it's insane. As you mentioned, we'll get the Grizz regular. They don't tweet from their PR; they tweet from their main account. Their starting lineups. So that'll be something we'll be watching quite closely. But yeah, this is going to be. Is this the shortest handed team's been all year? I want to say yeah. I don't think we've ever had one of these this bad so far this season. I
mean, you functionally cannot be more shorthanded, or you cannot play the game. So I would guess this is the shortest. We can go back to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, let me. I was going to say they got to get somebody off like the Memphis Hustle or something that like they could probably get. It should because they're home. So I'm assuming Memphis was home for their.
Hopefully they announce it soon so I can actually not have to scramble and create a player baseline right before. Oklahoma City Thunder, Yusman Jeng ruled out. He's the only player listed on the injury report for the Thunder. We've talked about them before, though. They're willing to add players during the day with the injury report. I think this is going to be a normal, straightforward game. I think they got all of the kind of extended rotation minutes out of the system yesterday. Any notes you have on the Thunder?
Yeah, just a bad loss. Don't really have too much to say. Chet was off to a hot start and completely disappeared. He had, I think, 9 points in like the first quarter and change, and couldn't even get the double-double. But as you mentioned, they usually go a little bit deeper. They were really trying to find some answers because their offense was not clicking against the freaking Pistons. Imagine that. So, but keep it as you mentioned. They do add guys all the time, so definitely don't assume that they're going to be the injury report we're getting now is what they're going to have when they go to start this game tonight.
All right, let's move to Washington and San Antonio. On the Washington side, they're without Isaiah Livers and Johnny Davis. Relatively straight forward in terms of who they have available. Any notes on the Wizards?
Nope. Pretty straightforward. We get the Jones brothers matchup here. We saw this a couple weekends ago. Both had pretty decent games. Kuzma coming off a big game. He likes to play in Michigan. His mom was there, and the Pistons beat the Thunder, and the Wizards beat the Pistons. So transitive property, the Wizards are better than the Thunder. But anyways, I don't have too much to add. Their center minutes have been pretty good. They've been getting some really strong minutes out of Marvin Bagley to cover up their 48 there, and then Kuzma's matchup is going to be the toughest of the bunch. When they faced earlier, Jeremy Sohan kind of kept Kuzma in check. So maybe we can get a Jordan Poole or a Tyus brother versus brother game.
The San Antonio side, Zach Collins listed questionable with right ankle soreness, which leaves a questionable tag on Dominic Barlow, who they're managing the two-way number of games available for him. Wembanyama not listed on the injury report. He played in the back-to-back last game. We were waiting for clarification on whether the minutes limit has been removed entirely. He has gotten up to 30 in this back-to-back. What are your notes on Wemby and the Spurs?
Yeah, Wemby, the nuttiest of the nut matchups for him. So expecting him to have a pretty big role here. I was almost going to cover boy him, and maybe I should have. But yeah, huge role. Worst rebounding team in the NBA. I expect Wemby to have a complete blow-up game here. Yeah, everything else is pretty straightforward here. Mentioned, Trey Jones playing pretty well. Had a double-double in this matchup earlier this month. And then it's we get the Dominic Barlow domino effect, right? If Zach Collins isn't in, then that brings Barlow back in the mix. If he's, then they're basically the same player to fill the non-Wemby's.
Right. All right, Orlando and Dallas. On the Orlando side, Markelle Fultz listed questionable. Gary Harris still out with the right calf strain. What are your notes on the Magic?
Yeah, really nice win from them last night. Strong second half. Suns, man, they just fold and fold in the fourth quarters. They're one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the NBA. But yeah, not really too much to add. Certainly expecting Markelle to possibly sit. We'll see if they bring Cole Anthony in the starting lineup, or if they go to Anthony Black. They've usually gone to Black here, which would be great for Powell. We mentioned Powell's role shrinking. But yeah, it would help him a little bit if Markelle did miss. And should mention this first unit's been awesome. One of the best defensive lineups in the NBA.
Yeah, the Suns. I don't know what their identity is. That team it's basically just like, let's see if KD and Booker individually, their greatness can carry us, and that's not going to work long term in terms of the playoff level. You need to see more of an identity for that team, especially on the defensive end. Dallas side of things, full injury report for Dallas as they've been through kind of a bulkier part of their schedule as well. They're without Kyrie Irving due to the right thumb sprain, Dante Exum, Derek Jones Jr., Dwight Powell, all listed questionable here. Maxi Kleber is probable with right small toe soreness. What are your notes or expectations for the Mavericks tonight?
Yeah, I think Derek Jones has a pretty good chance to miss. It looked like he broke his wrist.
I've been very confused that he wasn't ruled out like for weeks immediately. Yeah. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, so kind of think he misses. And I thought of a class for the substitute teacher to be filling in for Kyrie.
Good.
So he's the voice of the voiceless. So he's a public speaking teacher.
Perfect.
So there you go.
Perfect.
So filling in. But I think there's a chance they kind of go big. I think that they may want to put Grant Williams in the Powell matchup. So I kind of think they could run out a Luka, Josh Green, Derek Jones Jr. to guard Franz, and then Grant to guard Powell. Derek Lively's minutes have been better. And then, it's still Tim Hardaway Jr., the substitute teacher, will still have to fill in as well. So the minutes should be pretty solid. And, obviously the other headline here is, holy crap, Luka, 46 minutes after 44 in the back-to-back and the 70 ball. My God, kid, show some restraint, my guy. He just doesn't care.
Practice, man.
Yeah. We have 39 minutes on Luka, and it feels low. This man just will not take him off the court.
Yeah, and I mean, good luck trying to keep him healthy. Asking him to literally lead every possession from a usage. I mean, he scored or assisted on over 100 points in that Hawks game. Ask the guy to do that and then go out and play 46 minutes the night after. Good luck trying to keep him healthy. It's just super short-sighted in my opinion.
And he had a Q tag on him.
Yeah, crazy. Milwaukee and Denver. Milwaukee side, Giannis listed probable with the non-COVID illness. The probable tags coupled with the illness tags, always a little bit of a concern, but as Justin Fan has noted this year, he's played through most of these probable tags this year. What are your notes on Milwaukee as we get another one of these? Denver seems to get Milwaukee and Philadelphia cycling through around the same time. I think this happened last year as well. It seems like Denver's schedule has just been the top tier teams of late: Boston, Philadelphia, now Milwaukee. What are your notes on the Bucks tonight?
Yeah, Doc Rivers season, tough one to start with here. We'll see how he handles it, right? We know that this coaching staff, even Joe Prunty, who's cut Malik Beasley down a little bit compared to where Adrian Griffin played him. So keeping an eye on that. Bobby Portis' minutes have been a little better under Prunty. Curious to see how he plays that card as well. So yeah, this is interesting to see. Jay Crowder was actually heading for pretty strong minutes while some of the garbage time, filling in for Chris Middleton, who will obviously be back there. But and Talk's also been pretty tight rotation guy sometimes. So this is, we always are trying to study new coaches and stuff. So this is for the true sickos. Obviously, people care about Giannis and Joker, but we care about with minutes and in the rotations, who subs in. We actually saw a switch in the rotation substitution last game when Bobby Portis subbed in for Brook instead of Giannis. That was different, but curious to see how that plays out going forward.
Denver side of things, their injury report's pretty straightforward. Just Julian Strother out, along with Braxton Key, Colin Gillespie, Vlatko Konchar. What are your notes, if any, on the Nugs?
Nope, nothing. Just I love Jamal Murray today. Really weak on-ball defense gave him the cover away over Wemby. Minutes have been really, really good, man. He's been running upper 30s consistently. Joker running into a little bit of size on the other end could funnel more to him. But yeah, MPJ also had a pretty good game, and against the shorthanded Philly team. But yeah, not much to add. We pretty much got this rotation figured out.
All right, Philadelphia and Portland. All right, time to talk about it. Joel Embiid questionable, Tobias Harris questionable, Tyrese Maxey questionable. They're without D'Anthony Melton and Robert Covington. At least we get a listing on Joel this time. This has been something that's been frustrating the last few years with Philadelphia, is that there have not been any listings on Joel, and he's missed games at times. Obviously, this one sparking kind of national attention given the context of the matchup with Nikola Jokic. This is the front end of a back-to-back for the Philadelphia 76ers as well. So what are your expectations here? I know Tobias Harris noted he would try to play tonight. I saw Underdog tweet that out. So what are your expectations here for the 76ers?
Yeah, man. Tough scene for Adam Levitan. He goes to this game and we were, all like, oh, yeah, he's got, no back-to-back national TV game. He's good. He should be good. And no, really nasty.
Yeah,
nasty
Lev had the opportunity to sell tickets at some crazy premium that he's like, I've never seen Denver Nuggets tickets go this much. This is like NBA Finals prices. Should I sell them? And we were like, he's like, is there any chance like Embiid misses or whatever? And we're like, there's always a chance, but like all these things are working in his favor. And Lev got to go watch the Paul Reed show instead.
Yeah. We have big Paul Reed show. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like he hasn't played since 2019 in Denver, altitude, yada, yada, yada. Obviously all the Denver people I follow are going nuts on this. I don't really have much to say. Like obviously if he's out, they'd start Paul Reed. If he's in, I mean, I know a lot of people are calling for like a fine here. How do you feel about? I don't think. I mean, they can't fine him. This guy has a crazy injury history, right? And actually, you should mention. Levitan mentioned that Embiid was going through like a really rigorous workout. So were they going to sit him the whole time? Like, It's something that doesn't add up. What are any thoughts on the fine and just this situation?
I think they should be fined for improper injury reporting, not for sitting him, right? Like, I think. Yeah. I think the league needs to come up with something akin to the NFL where warmups. I don't know why warmups can happen so differently in the NFL, where they can list guys and you'd never have this issue in the NFL. The inactives come out an hour and a half before. It's never really an issue. But in the NBA, starting lineups come up 30 minutes before, and it's an issue not just with Joel Embiid. It was an issue with Cade Cunningham yesterday. It was an issue with Markelle Fultz earlier in the season. It's been an issue probably a handful of times this year. I think the NBA does need to address that aspect of it. You can't make players play that are hurt. Now, I will say this. If he plays tonight and sits tomorrow on a national TV game against Golden State, I think Adam Silver in the front office is going to lose and the executives in the NBA office are going to lose their minds because like, what are we doing here? That like the games that we're advertising to people and marketing to people as the most important games, he's not playing. And so I kind of think he sits tonight just because like, I think if he plays and then is not able to play tomorrow, I think the backlash is going to be even stronger. This narrative that he's only playing on the road against the weakest teams would be reinforced in this spot. So I kind of am thinking he sits, but he only has so many more games to be able to sit to win MVP. And I don't know if that's important to him or not. It certainly was last year, obviously, the last 2 years. So this is just a messy situation. And a lot of it is self-inflicted by the NBA. Like the 65 games rule to qualify for awards is super dumb. We said it was super dumb when they first started it, that it was going to lead to shenanigans and weirdness. We haven't seen any of that yet, but I'm very, very concerned in the last month of the season, we're going to see a lot of it. And so I think this is a lot of like self-inflicted stuff by the league that they need to figure out because this is the type of thing. There are a couple narratives around the NBA that tend to alienate casual viewers from embracing and trying out the NBA again. One of them is that players are not playing enough, and the star players, you don't know if you can count on them, and they need to do something to try to make this better. The stupid games minimum was not it. So yeah, I tend to think he sits tonight, but man, all of this is just super frustrating.
Yeah, and should mention Maxey was on the bench with his ankle. Looked like he was okay, so he's got a good chance to return. As you mentioned, Tobias should be back, so it'll be either Beverly or Maxey, and then the rest of the starting lineup should certainly be Kelly Oubre, Nick Batum, Tobias, and then Embiid or Paul Reed.
A couple other notes: we saw Batum's minutes were down. Do you think that was because he's a veteran player, kind of? They're trying to manage him a little bit as more, or do you think that's just a function of like he fits really well next to Embiid because you don't need him creating any offense and he's just a spot up shooter there, and he doesn't work really well without Embiid? Because I know we were projecting Batum for a bunch of minutes. We ended up taking over on him. We got there kind of luckily because we were way over on the minutes we projected. Do you think Batum's minutes are a little bit more tied to Embiid?
Yeah, I think so. Just pure floor spacing, no real shot creation from him. So I think that makes some sense. One other note too, if we do miss Maxey, we got a little bit of point cork in the last game.
Yep.
And man, we were doing Jaden Springer's minutes on Saturday. We're like, we got to keep bringing him down. They just don't play this dude anymore. So Springer's minutes just aren't there, and he would probably go away if Maxey plays.
Yep. All right, Portland side, they are on the second night of a back-to-back. They have not filed yet. They had a huge injury report yesterday with a lot of questionable tags. So I imagine we're going to see some players miss tonight. The same thing we said before about Malcolm Brogdon. He played in the last back-to-back set, and he played a lot of minutes. So I don't know what Portland's doing here, but we had, I believe yesterday on the injury report was Brogdon, Anthony Simons, and Jeremy Grant were all on the injury report yesterday. I imagine we see a few of them on the injury report again tonight.
Yeah, Jabari also knee injury, so they had basically their whole starting lineup on the injury report besides Ayton. We'll see if Ayton gets added. We know that knee soreness thing has gone away. He's been playing pretty heavy minutes and playing pretty well.
37.
Yeah, so he's kind of back. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets on there. So keep your eyes peeled. That'll be coming probably on either the 3:30 Eastern or possibly I expect it to come on the 3:30, but it might come on the 4:30.
Yeah.
They're usually push it right up to the limit.
Yep. All right. That'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. 12 games in under 50 minutes. Eat your heart out, Justin Fan. Look at us. Who would have thought it? As always, if you're enjoying the free content that we are providing here on the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got a goal of getting to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season, so we'd appreciate your efforts in joining us there by hitting that subscribe button. You can even hit the bell if you'd like to get notifications whenever any of our content goes live. If you'd like to join us behind the paywall, you can check out establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details about our DFS and player props packages that we offer behind the paywall. You can find myself and Gary Hartman talking about tonight's slate from a DFS perspective behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern tonight, breaking down the good plays, the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, the leverage pivots, and of course the flag plants. So check us out behind the paywall, establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA. As always, the other way that you can support this content, other than subscribing to this YouTube channel, is also by smashing that like button. That helps feed the algorithm, allows us to feed our families, allows us to keep feeding you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets, and to do so free. So if you want it free, you gotta smash the like button. We take our checks in clicks and in likes. So feed that algorithm, help feed yourselves with this free info, and help us feed our families. Nom 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.